The Galactic Council's central station was surrounded by the largest fleet in recorded history. Over 600 warships from 12 different species floated in perfect formation around the massive structure. Today, the full council would meet to decide humanity's fate, and they wanted their military power on full display. Inside the council chamber, representatives from all 12 ruling species took their seats. Council Prime Zethkar of the Zirithi looked satisfied as he reviewed the military reports. The human problem would be solved within days. Their small fleet of primitive ships would be no match for the assembled might of the galaxy. The motion before us is simple, Zethkar announced to the chamber. Humanity has violated council regulations by conducting forbidden research. They have refused our inspectors access to their facilities. They represent a clear threat to galactic stability and must be contained. The crystalline Volner representative chimed in agreement. We have detected energy signatures that suggest they are developing dangerous technologies. This cannot be allowed to continue. One by one, the council members voted to authorize military action against Earth. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would be given one final chance to surrender their research and submit to council authority. If they refused, their worlds would be occupied and their people relocated to controlled areas. Outside the station, Captain Morrison watched the council fleet through the sensors of the USS Shadow. His ship was completely invisible, existing partially in dark matter dimensions that the aliens could not detect. Around him, 23 other human ships waited in the same phased state. All ships report ready, Captain, Lieutenant Commander Wilson said quietly. Morrison studied the tactical display. The Council had positioned their most powerful ships in a defensive ring around the station. They expected any attack to come from normal space, following conventional military tactics. They had no idea that human ships could appear anywhere without warning. Dr. Walsh, are the weapon systems ready? Morrison asked. All dark matter weapons are charged and targeted, Walsh replied from the weapons station. We can phase the projectiles directly through their shields and armor. Morrison took a deep breath. Everything humanity had worked for came down to the next few minutes. Begin phase transition to normal space. All ships on my mark. The USS Shadow began to materialize outside the Council Station's shields. What had been empty space suddenly filled with 24 warships that appeared like ghosts becoming solid. Their hulls flickered and shimmered as the dark matter. Generators adjusted the phase transition. Alarms immediately began sounding throughout the Council fleet. Alien commanders shouted orders in a dozen different languages as they tried to understand where the human ships had come from. Scanner operators reported that the vessels had appeared without any energy signature or detection warning. Inside the council chamber, Zethkar received an urgent communication from his fleet commander. What do you mean they appeared from nowhere? He demanded. Sir, 24 human vessels are now positioned outside our defensive perimeter, the commander reported. They were not detected on any sensors until they became visible. Morrison opened a communication channel that would broadcast to every ship in the Council fleet and every being in the station. His voice was calm and steady as he spoke words that would change galactic history. Galactic Council, this is Captain Morrison of the human vessel USS Shadow. We are here to inform you that humanity formally withdraws from your organization. We reject your authority and your restrictions. Any attempt to interfere with human space or human development will be met with consequences you cannot imagine. Zethkar's voice boomed back through the communication system. You dare threaten the Galactic Council? You are outnumbered 600 to 24. Surrender immediately or face total destruction. Let me show you why numbers don't matter anymore, Morrison replied. He gave the signal to Dr. Walsh, who activated the weapon systems. The USS Shadow's dark matter cannons fired at 3 large asteroids near the station. The weapons existed, partially outside normal space, so they passed through the rock's molecular structure before detonating from within. The asteroids simply disappeared. One moment they were solid chunks of rock and metal. The next moment they were expanding clouds of particles and energy. The Council fleet watched in stunned silence as matter was destroyed at the atomic level by weapons they could not even detect. Firing. That demonstration used unmanned targets, Morrison announced. Our weapons can destroy anything in normal space while remaining completely undetectable. Your shields and armor are useless against technology that attacks from dimensions you cannot access. Council Prime Zethkar ordered his fleet to attack the human ships. Hundreds of energy weapons and projectiles fired at the dark matter vessels. The human ships began to fade and flicker as Dr. Carter's phase generators shifted them, partially out of normal space. The Council weapons passed harmlessly through the human, hulls like light passing through empty air. Energy beams and missiles struck nothing but vacuum where the ships appeared to be. The human vessels were there, and not there at the same time, existing in a state that made them impossible to damage. Dr. Walsh transmitted data on basic dark matter manipulation to every ship and station in the area. The information was not enough to build weapons, but it was enough to prove that the technology was real. More importantly, it showed that the Council had been deliberately suppressing scientific advancement for thousands of years. For millennia, your Council has kept the galaxy's species weak and dependent, Morrison continued his broadcast. You have destroyed 47 civilizations that tried to advance beyond your limitations. You have prevented countless species from reaching their true potential. Today, that ends. Chaos erupted throughout the Council fleet as alien crews realized the implications. Their leaders had been lying to them about galactic history. Advanced technology existed that could have improved life for billions of beings, but the Council had hidden it to maintain their power. Several smaller fleets began withdrawing from the station as their commanders demanded explanations from Council leadership. Other species started broadcasting their own messages, asking questions that had been forbidden for centuries. The Zirithi fleet commander ordered a direct assault on the USS Shadow, sending his most powerful ships forward with weapons at maximum. Charge. Morrison watched them approach and gave another signal to his weapons officer. The human ships fired again, this time targeting the attacking vessels. Dark matter projectiles phased through the alien shields and armor before exploding. Inside the ship's hulls, 5 Zirithi warships were destroyed in seconds, their crews never even seeing the weapons that killed them. Any species that wishes to develop advanced technology is free to do so, Morrison announced to the galaxy. Any species that wishes to explore beyond Council limitations has humanity's support. The age of enforced ignorance is over. The human fleet began to fade from normal space again, preparing to return to dark matter dimensions. Morrison transmitted one final message that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Humanity chooses freedom over your false security. We will not be contained, controlled, or conquered. Consider this our resignation from your Council. We suggest you prepare for a galaxy where intelligent species are no longer willing to accept artificial limitations. The 24 ships vanished completely, disappearing from every sensor and leaving no trace of their presence. The massive Council fleet found themselves alone around the station, facing questions they could not answer and problems they had never imagined. Inside the Council chamber, absolute silence filled the air. For the first time in thousands of years, a species had successfully defied Council authority and demonstrated the power to enforce their defiance. The foundation of galactic control had been shattered in a matter of minutes. Back on Earth, President Martinez addressed humanity with the truth about their situation. The Council had planned their destruction, but humans had developed technology that made them effectively untouchable. The age of human expansion would begin not through alien permission, but through their own determination and scientific achievement. The USS Shadow and its fleet established new colonies beyond Council space, while Dr. Carter and Dr. Walsh worked to develop even more advanced applications of dark matter technology. Humanity had broken free from the galactic status quo, but their greatest adventures were just beginning. In the years that followed, dozens of other species would follow humanity's example, developing their own advanced technologies and declaring independence from Council control. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of human submission had ended. The age of human exploration had begun. The hidden asteroid facility beyond Neptune was busier than any construction site in human history. Commander Phillips watched through the observation window as hundreds of workers built something that had never existed before. The first dark matter warship was taking shape in the massive construction bay, and it looked like nothing humanity had ever created. The ship's hull seemed to shimmer and fade as Phillips watched. Sometimes it appeared solid and real. Other times it looked like a ghost made of metal and energy. The dark matter generators that Dr. Carter had designed allowed the ship to exist, partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that most people could not even imagine. How long until the first ship is ready? Admiral Kane asked as she joined Phillips at the window. Dr. Walsh says 3 more days for the USS Shadow, Phillips replied. The other ships will be completed over the next 2 weeks. Kane nodded, but her expression remained worried. Colonel Brooks reports that the Council fleet is growing larger every day. They now have over 400 ships positioned around human space. Phillips felt his stomach tighten. 400 ships was enough to destroy every human world and colony completely. Are they planning to attack soon? Our spies think they're waiting for something, Kane said. Maybe final approval from the full Council, or maybe they want even more ships before they move. In the construction bay, teams of engineers were installing the dark matter weapon systems. These weapons were unlike anything that had ever been built. Instead of firing energy beams or projectiles through normal space, they could attack targets by sending destructive force through dark matter dimensions. Enemy shields and armor would be useless because the attacks would come from directions that did not exist in normal physics. Dr. Walsh floated near the weapon installation, checking every connection and circuit. She had spent weeks designing these systems, working from Dr. Carter's theoretical breakthroughs. The mathematics were incredibly complex, but the basic idea was simple. If you could manipulate dark matter, you could attack anything in the universe without your enemy being able to defend against it. Emma, we need to run another test, called Dr. Carter from the control room. Walsh pushed off from the weapon mount and drifted over to where Carter was monitoring the ship's dark matter generators. These machines were the heart of the new technology. They could shift matter between normal space and dark matter dimensions, making the ships nearly impossible to detect or target. Generator output is stable, Carter reported as he studied the readings. The ship can maintain phase shift for up to 6 hours before needing to recharge. What about weapons fire while phased? Walsh asked. That's the beautiful part, Carter replied with a smile. We can fire from dark matter dimensions into normal space, but weapons fired at us from normal space will pass right through us. It's like being invisible and invulnerable at the same time. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison was preparing for the most important mission of his career. He would command the USS Shadow, the first fully operational dark matter warship. The responsibility felt enormous. The success or failure of humanity's rebellion might depend on how well he and his crew performed in the coming battle. Morrison studied the tactical plans that Admiral Kane had developed. The strategy was bold and dangerous. Instead of waiting for the Council to attack human worlds, the dark matter fleet would strike at the Council's central station during a full assembly. If they could demonstrate their technology in front of all 12 ruling species, maybe the Council would choose negotiation over war. "Captain, the crew is ready for final briefing," reported Lieutenant Commander Kate Wilson, his new first officer. She was young but experienced, and Morrison trusted her judgment completely. "Gather everyone in the main briefing room," Morrison ordered. 20 minutes later, Morrison stood before his crew of 60 people. These men and women had volunteered for a mission that might end with all of them dead or branded as enemies of the entire galaxy. They deserved to know exactly what they were facing. "In 3 days, we will take the USS Shadow into battle against the Galactic Council," Morrison began. "Our mission is to demonstrate that humanity cannot be controlled or conquered. We will show them that their weapons cannot touch us, and that our weapons can destroy anything they build." A young engineer raised her hand. "Captain, what if they refuse to negotiate? What if they decide to destroy Earth regardless of what we can do?" Morrison had been asking himself the same question. "Then we make the cost so high that they think twice about it. The Council's power depends on other species believing they are unbeatable. If we prove that's not true, everything changes." Dr. Carter had joined the briefing to explain the technical aspects of their mission. "The dark matter generators will allow us to appear anywhere without warning," he said. "We can attack targets and disappear before they can respond. Most importantly, conventional weapons cannot harm us while we're phased into dark matter dimensions." "What about their advanced technology?" asked the ship's weapons officer. "The Council has been building ships for thousands of years. Their technology is advanced, but it's based on normal physics," Dr. Walsh replied. "Dark matter manipulation is something completely new. They have no defenses against it because they never imagined it was possible." After the briefing, Morrison returned to his quarters to review the mission plans one more time. The USS Shadow would lead 23 other dark matter ships to the Council's central station. They would arrive during a full Council assembly, when all 12 ruling species would be present along with their most powerful fleets. The plan was to demonstrate their capabilities by destroying several unmanned targets, then transmit a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity would withdraw from the Galactic Council and declare their independence. Any attempt to interfere with human space would be met with consequences. The Council could not imagine that. It was a plan that required perfect timing and flawless execution. One mistake could result in the destruction of Earth and every human colony. Colonel Brooks contacted Morrison through the secure communication system. "Captain, my spies report that the Council will convene a full assembly in 5 days. They plan to formally authorize military action against humanity." "Perfect timing," Morrison replied. "We'll arrive while they're all gathered in one place." "There's something else," Brooks continued. "I've been transmitting information about the Council's true history to resistance groups on Council worlds. When you make your demonstration, you won't be speaking just to the Council leadership. You'll be speaking to every oppressed species in the galaxy." Morrison felt the weight of that responsibility. Humanity's actions would not just determine their own fate, but possibly the fate of countless other species who had been kept weak and dependent by Council rule. 3 days later, Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Shadow as the ship prepared for its first combat mission. The dark matter generators hummed with power, and the hull flickered between solid and transparent as the phase systems activated. "All ships report ready, Captain," Lieutenant Commander Wilson announced. Morrison looked at his crew. They were about to attempt something that had never been done before. A small group of humans was going to challenge the most powerful military force in the galaxy using technology that existed partially outside normal reality. "Take us into dark matter phase," Morrison ordered. The USS Shadow faded from normal space, becoming invisible to every sensor in the galaxy. Around them, 23 other ships did the same. The dark matter fleet was now moving toward the Council's central station, carrying humanity's demand for freedom. In a few hours, they would arrive at the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. They would face hundreds of alien warships with weapons powerful enough to destroy planets. But they would also carry technology that could make them untouchable and weapons that could strike without warning. The final gamble for humanity's independence had begun. Dr. Carter monitored the fleet's progress from his hidden laboratory. Dark matter generators were performing perfectly, keeping all 24 ships in phase shift as they traveled faster than light toward their target. If his calculations were correct, they would arrive at the Council station completely undetected. If his calculations were wrong, humanity would face extinction within the next few days. Morrison checked the mission clock. 3 hours until they reached the Council station. 3 hours until they discovered whether humans would remain slaves or become masters of their own destiny among the stars. Dr. Carter floated in the zero-gravity section of the secret research station hidden behind Pluto. The facility looked like an ordinary asteroid mining operation from the outside, but inside it held the most advanced laboratory humanity had ever built. For 6 months, he had been working on something that could change everything. "Emma, come look at this," he called to Dr. Walsh, who was working at another station across the room. Emma pushed off from her workstation and drifted over to where Carter was studying a complex display of swirling energy patterns. The screen showed particles moving in ways that seemed to break the basic laws of physics. "What am I looking at?" she asked. "Dark matter," Carter replied, barely able to contain his excitement. "But not just any dark matter. I've found a way to control it using quantum field generators." Emma studied the readings more carefully. The numbers on the screen were incredible. "Ben, this is showing energy levels far beyond anything we've ever achieved." "That's not the best part," Carter sighed. He typed commands into his computer, and the display changed to show weapon and shield designs. "If we can manipulate dark matter this way, we can create defenses that nothing in the galaxy can penetrate. Weapons that can destroy targets from dimensions the enemy can't even detect." Emma felt her heart racing. This technology was beyond anything the Galactic Council possessed. It was beyond anything they had even imagined possible. "The Council has been preventing this research for a reason," she said slowly. "They knew this was possible, and they made sure no one could develop it." Carter nodded grimly. "I've been thinking the same thing. What if the Council isn't just controlling technology to maintain peace? What if they're suppressing it to maintain their own power?" Across the solar system, Colonel Amy Brooks was discovering the truth about the Council's real history. She had been promoted from lieutenant after proving herself as an intelligence officer, and now she had access to the most secret human spy networks. For months, she had been carefully gathering information from Council worlds, and what she found was terrifying. Brooks sat in her office on Earth, reading through files that told a story the galaxy had forgotten. The 12 species that ruled the Council were not the first to achieve interstellar dominance. They had destroyed dozens of advanced civilizations over thousands of years. The pattern was always the same. A species would develop faster than light, travel, and begin exploring the galaxy. The Council would contact them with offers of membership and promises of shared knowledge. The new species would accept, grateful for the chance to join a galactic community. Then came the restrictions. Limits on expansion, technology, and military development. Most species accepted these rules, thinking they were temporary or necessary for galactic peace. But some species eventually grew tired of being controlled and tried to break free. Those species disappeared completely. Brooks found records of 47 different civilizations that had been rehabilitated by Council forces. Their worlds were left empty. Their technology was destroyed. Their people were scattered or eliminated. The Council called it maintaining galactic stability. They're not protectors, Brooks said to herself as she read file after file. They're predators. Her computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from one of her spies on the Council's central station. The message was short but alarming. Council fleet movements detected. Large force assembling at coordinates you provided. Recommend immediate action. Brooks felt ice forming in her stomach. The coordinates were near the edge of human space. The Council was preparing to move against Earth. She immediately contacted Admiral Kane through their secret communication system. Admiral, we have a problem. The Council is massing ships near our territory. Kane's voice crackled through the encrypted channel. How many ships? My source says over 200 vessels. This isn't a patrol or inspection force. This is an invasion fleet. There was silence for a moment, then Kane spoke again. They know about our research stations. Or they've decided we're becoming too dangerous to contain, Brooks replied. Admiral, I've discovered something else. The Council has done this before, many times. Any species that refuses to stay weak gets destroyed. Kane was quiet for a long moment. Send me everything you found. I need to brief the President immediately. 3 hours later, President Martinez, Admiral Kane, Dr. Carter, and Colonel Brooks met in the secret bunker beneath the Colorado mountains. The mood in the room was dark as they reviewed Brooks's intelligence reports. 47 civilizations, Martinez said, reading through the files. All destroyed for trying to advance beyond Council limitations. And now they're preparing to do the same to us, Kane added. My scouts confirm that Council ships are moving into position around our space. They're not hiding their intentions anymore. Dr. Carter looked up from his tablet, where he had been reviewing technical data. How much time do we have? Maybe weeks. Brooks replied. My source says they're waiting for the full Council to approve the action. They want it to look legal and official. Then we need to accelerate our timeline, Martinez decided. Ben, how close are you to completing the dark matter technology? Carter hesitated. The basic science is sound, but building actual weapons and ships will take months, maybe years. We don't have years, Kane said firmly. We need something that works now. There might be another option, Dr. Walsh said from where she had been quietly listening. What if we don't wait for them to attack us? What if we strike first? Everyone in the room stared at her. The idea of humanity attacking the Galactic Council seemed impossible. Explain, Martinez said. Emma moved to the display screen and began showing her calculations. The Council thinks they know everything about human capabilities. They expect us to wait and react to their moves. But if we can deploy even a few ships with dark matter technology, we could demonstrate that fighting. US would be too costly. You're talking about threatening the most powerful military force in the galaxy, Kane said. I'm talking about showing them that their weapons can't touch us, Emma replied. Dark matter manipulation doesn't just give us better weapons. It gives us perfect defense. Ships that can exist partially outside normal space. Shields that enemy. Fire passes right through. Carter was studying the technical specifications on his tablet. It's possible, he said slowly. If we focus all our resources on building just a few prototype ships, we could have something operational within weeks. And then what? Martinez asked. We can't fight the entire galaxy. Brooks leaned forward. We don't have to fight them. We just have to prove that controlling us is impossible. The Council's power is based on other species believing they're unbeatable. If we show that's not true, other species might start questioning Council authority, Kane finished. It could destabilize their entire system. Or it could unite the entire galaxy against us, Martinez pointed out. They're already united against us, Emma said. We just found out that the Council has been planning our destruction since the day we joined. The only question is whether we go down fighting or go down begging. Dr. Carter stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the hidden facility. There's something else we need to consider. The research I've been doing suggests that dark matter manipulation is just the beginning. If we can master this technology, we might be able to develop things the Council can't even imagine. Such as? Martinez asked. Faster than light travel that doesn't require jump gates. Energy sources that could power entire star systems. Weapons that could eliminate threats from other dimensions entirely. Kane was studying tactical displays on her tablet. If we're going to do this, we need to move fast. I can have construction teams working around the clock to build the first ships. But we'll only get one chance to surprise them. Then we better make it count, Martinez said. She looked around the room at the small group of humans who were about to challenge the most powerful force in the galaxy. How many ships do we need? 24 should be enough, Kane replied. Enough to make a statement, but small enough that we can build them quickly. Do it, Martinez ordered. Begin construction immediately. Colonel Brooks, I want your spies ready to provide intelligence on Council fleet movements. Dr. Carter and Dr. Walsh, I want those ships equipped with the best technology you can develop. What about the Council's demand for access to our research? Kane asked. Martinez smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. We'll give them access. Right after we show them what human research can really accomplish. As the meeting ended, each person left with a specific mission. Humanity was about to begin the most dangerous gamble in their history. They would either break free from galactic oppression or be destroyed trying. Dr. Carter returned to his hidden laboratory with new purpose. The next few weeks would determine whether humans remained slaves to alien masters or became masters of their own destiny. He began working on designs for ships that could exist in multiple dimensions at once. The age of human submission was about to end. The age of human defiance was about to begin. 6 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council, and Commander Ryan Phillips was getting tired of alien visitors. Another inspection team had arrived at the Mars Research Station that morning, and they were asking the same questions. They always asked. They wanted to see every experiment, every piece of equipment, and every research file. Ryan watched through the observation window as 3 Volner inspectors floated through his laboratory. Their crystal bodies glowed with that soft blue light that meant they were scanning everything with their built-in sensors. Behind them walked a tall Zirathi soldier who wrote notes on a device that looked like it was made from living metal. Commander Phillips called Dr. Emma Walsh from across the room. She was his best quantum engineer, a brilliant woman who had been working on advanced physics projects since before the Council membership. They want to see the dark matter experiments again. Ryan sighed and walked over to where Emma stood next, to a large machine covered in warning labels. The device was designed to study dark matter, the invisible substance that made up most of the universe. Emma had been making real progress before the inspection started, but now every time she got close to a breakthrough, the Council inspectors would find some reason to shut down her work. Is there a problem with our research? Ryan asked. Lead Volner Inspector, the crystal being turned toward him, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. We must ensure that all Council members follow proper safety protocols. Dark matter research can be very dangerous if not conducted properly. We've been following all the guidelines you gave us, Emma said, trying to keep frustration out of her voice. Our safety measures exceed everything in the Council manual. The Zirathi soldier stepped forward. His yellow eyes looked at the machine with obvious suspicion. Nevertheless, we have detected energy signatures that concern us. This research must be suspended until further review. Ryan felt his hands form into fists, but he kept his voice calm. How long will this review take? As long as necessary, the soldier replied. The Council takes galactic safety very seriously. After the inspectors left, Ryan and Emma stood alone in the laboratory. The dark matter experiment sat silent and useless, just like a dozen other projects that had been shut down in recent months. Every time human scientists got close to something interesting, the Council found a reason to stop their work. "They're not protecting galactic safety," Emma said quietly. "They're making sure we don't learn anything that might make us more powerful." Ryan nodded. He had been thinking the same thing for weeks. The Council's restrictions were getting worse, not better. Human colonies were limited to 12 worlds in a small section of space that had almost no valuable resources. Human ships could not be bigger than Council specifications, which meant they were smaller and weaker than most alien vessels. Most importantly, humans were forbidden from researching anything the Council considered advanced technology. On Earth, President Helen Martinez was having similar thoughts. She sat in her office in Washington, reading reports from human colonies across the Terran sector. The news was not good. Trade restrictions meant that Earth could only buy and sell certain products. Military limits meant that human defense forces were barely strong enough to protect their own worlds. Technology restrictions meant that human science was moving backward instead of forward. "Madam President," said her chief advisor, walking into the office with a thick folder of documents, "we have the latest reports from our ambassadors to the Council worlds." Helen took the folder and read through the papers inside. The reports all said the same thing. Other Council species saw humans as servants, not equals. Human requests for better trade deals were ignored. Human scientists were not allowed to attend advanced research conferences. Human ships were turned away from Council space without explanation. "They're treating us like children," Helen said, closing the folder. "Or worse." Her advisor nodded. "Some of our people are starting to ask if Council membership was worth it." Helen stood and walked to the window that looked out over the city. Somewhere up in the sky, past the clouds and atmosphere, alien inspectors were probably searching through another human facility. The promise of advanced technology and galactic partnership had turned into supervision and control. "Set up a private meeting with Admiral Kane," Helen said. "I want to discuss some options that the Council doesn't need to know about." 3 days later, Admiral Kane arrived at a secret location in the mountains of Colorado. The facility was built deep underground, hidden from any sensors that might be watching from space. President Martinez was already there, along with Dr. Carter and several other top scientists and military leaders. "What I'm about to propose goes against our Council membership agreement," Helen said without any introduction. "If they find out what we're doing, there could be serious consequences." Admiral Kane sat forward in her chair. "What do you have in mind?" "Secret research," Helen replied. "Facilities that the Council doesn't know about. Scientists working on projects that are officially canceled. Military development that happens outside Council oversight." Dr. Carter looked worried. "The risk would be enormous. If they catch us, if we don't take the risk, humanity will never advance beyond what they allow us to be," Helen said firmly. "We'll be junior partners forever, grateful for whatever scraps they throw our way." Admiral Kane was quiet for a moment, thinking. And she nodded. "I can set up hidden facilities in the outer solar system, beyond Pluto, where their inspectors never go. We could recruit our best people and tell the Council they've resigned or transferred to civilian jobs." "Dr. Carter, could you continue your physics research in secret?" Helen asked. The scientist adjusted his glasses and considered the question. "It would be difficult, but possible." Emma Walsh's dark matter work was very promising before they shut it down. If we could give her proper equipment and no interference, then that's what we'll do, Helen decided. Small steps at first. A few hidden laboratories, a few secret projects. We need to learn what the Council doesn't want us to know. Over the following weeks, the secret program began to take shape. Admiral Kane identified asteroid mining facilities that could be converted into research stations. Dr. Carter quietly recruited scientists who had been frustrated by Council restrictions. Key personnel were officially transferred to remote assignments where they disappeared from Council oversight. Captain Morrison, now commanding a patrol ship called the USS Defiance, began noticing strange things during his missions. Council ships were showing up in areas where they had no business being. Alien vessels were scanning human colonies from just outside their detection range. Most disturbing of all, he found the wreckage of what had once been an advanced starship, floating in empty space near the edge of human territory. The wreckage was clearly not from any species Morrison recognized. The metal was different from anything he had seen before, and the design was completely alien, even by galactic standards. But what really caught his attention was the damage pattern. The ship had not been destroyed by accident or natural disaster. It had been systematically taken apart by weapons fire. Morrison's science officer, Lieutenant David Kim, studied the wreckage for hours before making a disturbing discovery. "Captain, I've found something you need to see." Morrison joined Kim at the scanning station. On the screen was a section of the alien ship's computer core, damaged but still partially functional. "I was able to recover some of their data files," Kim explained. "This ship belonged to a species called the Nethani. According to their records, they were council members about 300 years ago." "Were?" Morrison asked. Kim nodded grimly. "The final log entries talk about council fleets arriving to restore order after the Nethani tried to exceed their designated technological limitations. The last entry says their homeworld was being evacuated before council forces arrived." Morrison stared at the screen. "What happened to them?" "As far as I can tell, they were completely destroyed. Their entire civilization wiped out for trying to advance beyond what the council allowed." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. The council had not just restricted the Nethani, they had eliminated them entirely when they refused to obey. Was this the fate that awaited humanity if they pushed too hard against their limitations? "Copy all the data you can recover," Morrison ordered, "and make sure this information gets back to Admiral Kane immediately." "Yes, sir," Kim replied. "Captain, do you think the council would really do something like this to us?" Morrison looked at the destroyed alien ship on his screen and thought about the restrictions that had been placed on humanity. The answer was becoming clearer every day. "I think they already are," he said quietly. Back on Mars, Emma Walsh worked late into the night in her empty laboratory. The council inspectors had taken all her equipment, but they had not taken her knowledge. In a hidden notebook, she continued working on the mathematical formulas that might unlock the secrets of dark matter manipulation. If the council wanted to keep humanity weak and dependent, they were going to be disappointed. Some humans would not accept limitations imposed by others, no matter how powerful those others might be. The secret war for humanity's future had already begun. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the front window of his ship's control room. Space stretched out before him, filled with stars that seemed closer than ever before. His ship, the USS Meridian, moved slowly toward the biggest space station he had ever seen. The station was huge, like a small moon made of metal and glass. Lights blinked all over its surface, and hundreds of alien ships moved around it like busy insects. "Captain, we are getting close to the docking area," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her station. She was the ship's intelligence officer, a smart young woman who never missed any detail. Her fingers moved quickly over her control panel as she watched the readings. Jake nodded and looked at the woman standing next to him. Admiral Lisa Kane was the best military leader Earth had ever produced. She wore her blue uniform with pride, and her gray hair was pulled back in a tight style. Her face showed no emotion, but Jake knew she was thinking hard about what would happen today. "This is it," Jake said quietly. After 30 years of trying, humans are finally going to join the Galactic Council. Dr. Ben Carter walked up to them from the back of the control room. He was Earth's smartest scientist, a man who understood physics better than anyone else on the planet. His white coat was wrinkled from the long journey, and his thick glasses reflected the lights from the control panels. "The energy readings from that station are incredible," Ben said, shaking his head in wonder. "The technology they use is hundreds of years ahead of ours, maybe thousands." Admiral Kane spoke for the first time since they had arrived. Her voice was calm and strong. "That's exactly why we need to be here. Earth needs access to their knowledge and technology. Our people deserve a place among the stars." The USS Meridian moved into the docking bay slowly. The bay was so large that their ship looked like a toy inside it. Other ships from different worlds sat in the bay, too. Jake could see vessels that looked like living things, made of what seemed to be grown rather than built. Others were perfect geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. Some ships seemed to be made of pure light that somehow held its form. "Docking complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Brooks. "We are secure and ready for the delegation to leave the ship." Jake straightened his dress uniform and checked his appearance one more time. Today was the most important day in human history. Earth had been trying to join the Galactic Council for decades. They had proven themselves through peaceful exploration, fair trade, and helping other species when they could. Finally, the Council had agreed to consider humanity for membership. The three leaders walked through the ship's corridors toward the exit. Crew members they passed stood at attention and wished them good luck. Jake felt the weight of representing all of humanity on his shoulders. Every person on Earth was counting on them to succeed. The airlock opened, and they stepped onto the station. The air felt different here, thicker somehow, and it carried strange smells from a dozen different worlds. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth's, making each step feel important and final. A group of aliens waited for them in the docking area. The leader was clearly from the Zirithi species that Jake had studied during the long journey here. The creature stood 8 feet tall on powerful legs. Its skin looked like green and brown scales, and its yellow eyes watched the humans with what seemed like barely hidden dislike. This was Council Prime Zethkar, the military leader of the Council. "Welcome, humans," Zethkar said in perfect English, though his voice sounded like grinding stone. "I am Council Prime Zethkar. The Council awaits your presence." Behind Zethkar stood other aliens that Jake recognized from his studies. A Volner floated a few inches off the ground, its body made of what looked like living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Several Kethmori stood in a tight group, their insect-like bodies moving in perfect coordination, as if they shared one mind. "Thank you for this opportunity," Admiral Kane replied formally. "Humanity is honored to be considered for Council membership." Zethkar's mouth curved into what might have been a smile, but it showed too many sharp teeth to be friendly. "Of course. Follow me." They walked through corridors that were clearly designed for many different types of beings. The ceiling was high enough for species much taller than humans, and the floor had different textures to accommodate various types of feet and movement. Walls showed displays of information in languages that hurt Jake's eyes to look at Dot as they walked. Lieutenant Brooks stayed close to the group, but kept her eyes moving, taking in every detail. She noticed that several aliens they passed stopped their conversations to stare at the humans. Some looked curious, others seemed worried, and a few appeared angry. A council chamber was enormous. 12 massive seats arranged in a circle dominated the room, each one designed for a different species. The seats were empty now, except for the one where an ancient-looking creature with too many arms sat waiting. Screens and displays covered the walls, showing star maps and streams of data that changed too quickly to follow. "Please, take your place in the center," Zethkar instructed, pointing to a small platform in the middle of the circle. The three humans walked to the platform and stood together. Jake felt very small, surrounded by the huge empty seats that would soon hold the most powerful beings in the galaxy, one by one. The council members entered and took their seats. Each species was more alien than the last. Some looked like living plants, others like mobile rocks. One appeared to be made entirely of swirling gas, held together by some unknown force. Jake tried not to stare, but it was impossible not to be amazed by the variety of life the universe had created. When all 12 seats were filled, Zethkar stood and spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "We gather today to welcome Earth and humanity into the Galactic Council," he announced. "After careful consideration, we have decided that your species has shown enough progress to join our organization." Admiral Kane stepped forward. "We accept this honor with gratitude and look forward to contributing to galactic peace and prosperity." "Of course," Zethkar continued, "there are certain conditions that new members must follow. These rules exist for the safety and stability of all council members." Dr. Carter glanced at Admiral Kane. They had expected some restrictions, but the way Zethkar spoke made it sound like more than simple guidelines. "First, human expansion will be limited to the Terran sector, which we have designated for your use. Second, human military vessels may not exceed the size and capability limits we will provide. Third, certain technologies are forbidden to developing species for the good of galactic stability." Jake felt his stomach drop. These weren't partnership terms, they were the conditions of surrender. Lieutenant Brooks watched the council members as Zethkar spoke. She noticed something troubling. Several of them were looking at each other and making small gestures that seemed like signals. Her training in intelligence work told her that something was wrong with this whole situation. "We understand that. These restrictions may seem limiting," Zethkar said with that unpleasant smile, "but they are necessary for maintaining order. Many species before you have tried to advance too quickly and caused great problems for themselves and others." Admiral Kane's jaw tightened, but she remained professional. "We will need time to review these conditions with our government." "Of course," agreed the crystalline volar member, its voice sounding like musical chimes. "But understand that these terms are not negotiable. They are the price of council membership." As the ceremony continued, Lieutenant Brooks activated a small recording device hidden in her uniform. Something about this whole meeting felt like a trap, and she wanted evidence of everything that was said that the formal ceremony lasted another hour. Humanity was officially welcomed into the Galactic Council, but Jake felt like they had just signed away their freedom instead of gaining it. The restrictions were severe, and the attitude of the council members made it clear that humans were expected to be grateful for whatever scraps they were given. When the ceremony ended, the three humans were escorted back to their ship. As they walked through the station corridors, Lieutenant Brooks noticed alien security forces stationed at regular intervals. They tried to look casual, but their positions were clearly chosen to watch and potentially control the movement of visitors. Back on the USS Meridian, the three leaders gathered in Jake's private meeting room. Admiral Kane sat heavily in her chair and rubbed her temples. "That was not what we expected," she said quietly. Dr. Carter nodded agreement. "The technology restrictions alone will set human development back by decades, maybe centuries." "Lieutenant." Brooks looked up from her datapad where she had been reviewing her recordings. "Admiral, I think there's something you need to know. I monitored their communications during the ceremony. They were talking about us in their own languages." "What did they say?" Jake asked. "I couldn't understand most of it, but I recognized a few words from my alien language training. They kept using terms that translate roughly to containment, threat assessment, and potential problem." Admiral Kane leaned forward. "Are you saying they see us as a threat?" I think this whole membership offer might be a way to control. US replied, keep us from becoming powerful enough to challenge them. Jake stared out the window at the massive station. For the first time since Lee